investment. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Before we go any further, I need to make this very clear. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. Investment. I'm not giving you dates, I'm not giving you rates, and I'm not telling you to buy, sell, hold, or exchange anything. What we do here is analyze information, invest, look at patterns, talk through realistic scenarios, and think critically. No hype, no guarantees, no promises, just logic, strategy, and perspective. All right, investment. Let's talk about what people mean when they say planned rate shift. Whenever that phrase starts circulating in the dinar community, emotions go up. Investment. People assume it means an overnight revaluation, a surprise announcement, or some secret backroom move that flips everything instantly. Investment. But if you step back and look at how central banks actually operate, that's usually not how this works. A planned rate shift in a realistic economic sense, investment, typically refers to a structured, deliberate adjustment to monetary policy. It's not chaos, it's not magic, it's methodical. Investment. And that brings us directly to the Central Bank of Iraq, the CBI. The question isn't just whether a rate shift could happen. The deeper question is whether the CBI has the independence, authority, and economic foundation to execute something like that responsibly. So let's unpack this. Investment. For years, Iraq has been walking a tightrope between political influence and monetary reform. On one side, you have government pressures, budget deficits, public spending demands, reconstruction needs, social programs. On the other side, you have central bank priorities, currency stability, inflation control, investment, foreign reserves management, compliance with international financial systems. When a central bank is independent, investment, it makes decisions based primarily on long-term economic stability, not short-term political pressure. When it's not independent, investment. Monetary decisions can become tools of political survival. So when we talk about a big update and CBI independence, what we're really talking about is this investment, is the Central Bank of Iraq moving towards stronger autonomous control over monetary policy. Because if the answer is yes, that changes everything. Investment. Think about it like this. If the government wants to increase spending rapidly, maybe because oil revenues are high, investment, they might prefer a weaker currency in some context to make certain domestic obligations easier to manage. But if the central bank is focused on inflation, investment, currency stability, and long-term credibility, it might resist abrupt moves that create volatility. That tension is normal in developing economies. Now, recently, investment. We've seen signs that the CBI has been tightening oversight on dollar auctions, strengthening compliance measures, increasing monitoring of banking activity, investment, and coordinating more closely with international financial institutions. Those are not the actions of a reckless system. Investment. Those are the actions of a system trying to modernize. Let's talk about what a planned rate shift could realistically look like. Investment, it would not likely be a random overnight jump with no preparation. It would probably come after several things line up. Stable or rising foreign reserves, entrenchment, controlled inflation, consistent oil revenues, reduced currency spread between official and parallel markets, strong anti-money laundering compliance. Investment, improved banking transparency. If you don't have those pillars in place, a dramatic rate adjustment can backfire. It can cause capital flight. Investment, it can create black market surges. It can damage credibility. But if you do have those pillars in place, even a modest shift can signal strength. Here's a scenario to think about. Imagine Iraq's foreign reserves are strong because oil revenues have remained steady. Inflation is under control. Investment. The parallel market spread has narrowed due to tighter currency controls, and the CBI has demonstrated to international partners that its compliance standards meet global expectations. In that environment, investment, a calculated adjustment to the exchange rate could be positioned not as desperation, but as confidence. Confidence is everything in currency markets. Investment. Now let's connect this to CBI independence more directly. If the central bank operates with genuine autonomy, investment, it can make decisions based on economic timing rather than political timing. That's critical because political timing is often reactive, elections, protests, public pressure. Economic timing is strategic, inflation cycles, reserve levels, global market conditions. If the CBI has strengthened its independence, investment, that means any rate-related move would likely be part of a broader reform package rather than a panic response, and that's important for long-term credibility. Let's also talk about the relationship between the CBI and the US dollar system. Iraq's economy still relies heavily on oil exports priced in dollars. Investment, that means access to the U.S. Federal Reserve System, and compliance with global banking standards is not optional, it's foundational. Investment, when we see the CBI implementing tighter controls on dollar transactions, enhancing digital tracking, and restricting unauthorized outflows, that's not random. Investment, that's part of aligning with international expectations. Why does that matter? Because if Iraq wants to adjust its currency policy in a meaningful way, and it must first prove it can manage capital flows responsibly. Investment, imagine trying to strengthen your currency while dollars are leaking out uncontrollably through informal channels. That doesn't work. Investment. So what we may be witnessing is not just isolated policy tweaks, but groundwork. Groundwork for credibility, groundwork for modernization, groundwork for optionality. Investment optionality means flexibility. An independent central bank with strong reserves and global trust has options. It can defend the currency, it can adjust policy gradually. Investment. It can respond to external shocks with confidence. Now let's address something directly. Does planned rate shift automatically mean a massive increase? No. Investment, a shift could be small, it could be gradual, it could be part of a broader structural change like redenomination or currency restructuring. But it could be tied to fiscal reform. Speculation often jumps to extremes, but real central banking is incremental and strategic. Investment, I want you to think like a policymaker for a moment. If you were running Iraq's central bank, what would you prioritize before adjusting the rate? Investment. You'd want strong reserves, you'd want inflation under control, you'd want a stable political environment, you'd want international partners confident in your system. Investment, you'd want domestic banks compliant and digitized, you'd want reduced corruption and smuggling. Those aren't rumors, those are prerequisites. Investment. So when we hear about increased CBI independence, what that suggests, if true, investment, is that the institution is positioning itself to meet those prerequisites without political interference. That's powerful. Because historically, investment, one of the biggest risks in emerging markets is politicized monetary policy. If Iraq is moving away from that model and toward a more technocratic, investment, rule-based central banking system, that increases long-term credibility significantly. Now, does that mean something happens tomorrow? No. Investment, we do not operate on hype here. What it means is that the foundation matters more than the headline. A big update in reality may not be a flashy announcement. Investment, it may be a series of quiet structural improvements that eventually make larger moves possible. Let's also discuss regional comparisons. Investment, other oil-producing countries that strengthened their currency credibility didn't do it overnight. They built reserves, modernized banking, stabilized politics. Investment, diversified revenue streams. Iraq is behind some of its neighbors in certain areas, but it's also made measurable progress over the last several years. Investment, digital payment systems have expanded, bank oversight has tightened, coordination with international bodies has increased. Investment, foreign reserves have fluctuated but remain significant. Those are building blocks. So if we zoom out, the big update, they might not be the rate itself. Investment, it might be the fact that the CBI is demonstrating increasing operational independence, because once independence is credible, markets respond differently. Investment, investors trust data more, international institutions cooperate more confidently, domestic businesses plan with more certainty. Investment, and that's when currency discussions become less speculative and more structural. Now let me ask you something directly. Investment, if Iraq had to choose between a short-term political gain and long-term monetary credibility, which do you think serves the country better? Investment, long-term credibility wins every time, and central bank independence is one of the strongest signals of long-term credibility in global finance. Investment, we're going to go even deeper in the next segment into how a planned rate shift could interact with oil pricing, budget reform, public spending, investment and global economic cycles, and what realistic timelines might look like in a structured reform environment.